answer somewhat because but little bit, and because of that we could not able to respond for such questions. Now, where actually the questions rise in the topic like plants and animals. Very well about the plant. At this session, more about plants and eukaryotes. Eukaryotes. Yeah, welcome Anjali. To possess true nuclear, the organism possess structures and all other cellular components. The difference between prokaryotes is very important point. Nuclear membrane. In prokaryotes, and the third point is prokaryotes, all membrane bounded cell organelles are found. And you can go with examples like membrane bounded cell organelles like mitochondria, Golgi complex, lysosomes, chloroplast, plastids, all are absent in prokaryotes, whereas in eukaryotes, the mitochondria, Golgi complex, chloroplast, all such organelles are present in eukaryotes. In prokaryotes, the main examples are blue-green algae, bacteria, and in eukaryotes, all other than Monera, that is Protista, Mycota, Plantae, Animalia, all comes under eukaryotes. Like all plants and animals, mushrooms and amoeba, paramecium, euglena, all these comes under eukaryotes. This is the basic difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Okay, welcome Arpita, Gangotri. Okay, new entry, Varalakshmi, this is the first entry, I think so, in the live class. Okay, now I'm going to share the screen. Okay, let me know whether my voice is audible. If my voice is audible, I am going to share the screen. Okay, so everyone replying as audible. So let me use this time, because when the time goes on, definitely you may have the network problem. So we'll use this the best time. I am going to share the screen. Okay, Aishwarya, welcome. Okay, okay. So, all living organisms like plants and animals are made up of cells. And this cell was coined by Robert Hooke in the year 1665. And the first bacterial cell was identified by Leeuwenhoek in 1674. And the nucleus was introduced by the Robert Brown. And the protoplasm in the cell was coined by Purkinje in 1839. So, all these cells, they have features, and these features were under cell theory, and the cell theory was introduced by Scalden and Scavin. And the cell theory says that each cell will multiply by the cell division. The organisms may be unicellular or multicellular, and by the cell division, one single cell divides into two cells, and those daughter cells look similar to the parent cell. And the cell has many components, as you see in this image. The cell have many components. When you see the plant cell and animal cell, a lot of variation in the cellular structure. In the plant cell, it is mainly covered by the cell wall, and the cell wall is absent in animal cell. And if you go with the other components, both the cells have distinct nucleus, but look at the location. In the animal cell, somewhat center, whereas in the plant cell towards the peripheral side. This is because of the large vacuole in the plant cell. Because of the presence of large vacuole, the nucleus moves towards the peripheral side. And other components of the plant cell is plastids, that is green in color, which is rich in chloroplast, and they are found only in the plant cell, and these plastids are absent in the animal cell. And in the animal cell, there will be lysosomes. These lysosomes are called suicide bags. Why it is called so? Why the lysosomes are called suicide bags? They are called suicide bags because when the cell get damaged, torn or aged, there is no use from such cells. Such cells will be destroyed by the lysosomes by destroying the cell, and hence they are called suicide bags. These are found only in the animal cell. And centrioles are found in the animal cell, not in the plant cell. And rest of the components will be common, like the nucleus, within the nucleus, nucleolus, endoplasmic reticulum, rough endoplasmic reticulum, and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum, where the ribosomes are present on the surface and helps in protein synthesis. And both the cells have ribosomes in the cytoplasm, helps in protein synthesis. Mitochondria, which are called as powerhouse of the cell. And Golgi complex, which synthesize the ribosomes and other components, and these are helping in making detoxifying. They remove the toxin chemicals by detoxification. So these are the basic differences between plant cell and animal cell. These are the plant tissues. A single cell in lower organisms can perform all the physiological activities. But when it comes to higher organisms, like higher plants and animals, here we can find different kinds of tissues. What is tissue? A tissue is group of cells having same origin, structure and function are called tissues. Tissue is a group of cells which is having same origin, structure and function. And this kind of tissues are found both in plants and higher animals. Again, the plant tissue is differentiated as meristematic tissue. In the plant, we differentiate it as meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. In meristematic tissue, we find three types: apical meristematic tissue, intercalary meristematic tissue and lateral meristematic tissue. Anyhow, all this meristematic tissue helps in growth of the plant as they involve in continuous cell division. Only the meristematic tissues involve in continuous cell division. Where do you find this meristematic tissue? These meristematic tissue are found very commonly at the apical region, root apex and shoot apex, and at the internodal region and in between the internodes. Anyhow, all these helps in secondary growth, primary growth and apical growth. And next is permanent tissue. Permanent tissue are three types: parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma comes under simple permanent tissue. Xylem and Phloem comes under complex permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissue are three types: parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Parenchyma helps in storage and they found in very smooth parts of the plant. Collenchyma present at petiole and pedicel. They give a supporting structure, mechanical supporting structure. They are quite hard than the parenchyma. Sclerenchyma, these are the fibrous. Initial stage there will be living cells and later they lose the protoplasm and the cytoplasm and the central part will be deposited by the lignin and that process is known as lignification. Wherever you find the fibers in the plants, that is due to sclerenchyma. Just take the coconut fiber, the coir, all these are the sclerenchyma. Next is complex permanent tissue, that is xylem and phloem. Xylem is one which conducts water. Phloem is one which conducts food. Xylem conducts the water from the root to the shoot, that is by transpiration pull. With the help of transpiration pull, the xylem conducts water from the root system to the shoot system. And the phloem conducts the food from the leaf to other parts of the plant by translocation of food. And what is this translocation of food? the transport of food materials in a soluble form, that is in a form of sucrose, from the leaf to other parts of the plant. And how the food is prepared? We all know the food is prepared by the process called photosynthesis. As a result of photosynthesis, the carbohydrates are synthesized, and along with that, it releases oxygen, and for photosynthesis, it requires water and carbon dioxide. Anyhow, the water will be supplied from the xylem tissue, and the food is prepared in the leaf. From the leaf, translocation of the sap or the food helps in transportation of the food material from the leaf to other parts. But what about carbon dioxide and oxygen? How the carbon dioxide enters inside the plant cell and how the oxygen will be removed from the plant cell? It is by stomatal pores. Stomatal pores helps in exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide within the plant or cell. And next is about animals. And if we want to know more about animal cells cannot prepare their own food. Hence they are called heterotrophs. They depend on other organisms for the food. Why they won't prepare the food? As they don't have, yes, they are non-green, they don't have chlorophyll, and they don't have the capacity to undergo photosynthesis, and hence they always depend on other organisms. Hence they are called heterotrophs. And they have holozoic form of nutrition. That means higher animals, they have digestive system to digest the food along with the help of enzymes. Enzymes to play a major role in digesting the food in higher organisms. But what about the lower organisms? The lower organisms like amoeba, single-celled organisms, how the digestion of food takes place? It is by simple method called diffusion. Diffusion is a process where the movement of particles, food particles or oxygen or carbon dioxide takes place by the diffusion. Think of in amoeba, it is a single-celled organism. There is no excretory system or digestive system. The amoeba takes the food, the prey, and it forms a food vacuole. And the food vacuole enters inside the cell. And how digestion takes place in amoeba? Yes, it is by the enzyme called amylase. Amylase enzyme helps in digesting the food. Soon after the digestion, the excretory substances will be removed just like that. It will leave and it will move off. There is no excretory system, there is no digestive system here. It is just by diffusion. And what about exchange of gases? Now think of amoeba after respiration, after digestion of the food, carbon dioxide is formed. And the concentration of carbon dioxide is high within the cell, whereas carbon dioxide is low outside the cell. Then what happens here? Yes, the movement of molecules from the higher concentration towards the lower concentration. Now the carbon dioxide is more in the cell, very less in outside the cell. So carbon dioxide starts moving from higher concentration towards the lower concentration. Hence, the carbon dioxide is removed from the cell in a single-celled organisms. That is by the diffusion process. And what about in higher organisms? It is by the respiration, breathing process. Respiration and breathing process, it will be removed. So like this, the carbon dioxide and oxygen exchange takes place in single-celled organisms. And what about in higher organisms? They have very good developed respiratory system with a pair of lungs, or in lower organism, gills. In higher organisms, digestive system with complicated structure, whereas in lower organisms, it is simple digestive system, not with the complex, simple digestive system, helps in exchange of gases and digestion of the food materials takes place. And in animals, unicellular organisms comes under Protista. All unicellular organisms, even though they are animals, they comes under Protista. And what organisms are left in animal kingdom? It is only invertebrates, vertebrates. And invertebrates, what are those invertebrates? Porifera, Coelenterata, Platyhelminthes, Ascalhelminthes, Annelida, Mollusca, Arthropoda, Echinodermata. All these are the invertebrates as they don't have backbone. And the next one is chordates. Among the chordates, the most popular one is vertebrates. And vertebrates are the organisms where they have well-developed backbone, if not notochord. Which were the vertebrates? Fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Among these animals, vertebrates animals, again we are going to differentiate it as cold-blooded animals, warm-blooded animals. The first three you just observe the last row. Fishes, for amphibians frog, for reptiles snake is given. These three categories, that is fishes, amphibians and reptiles, are cold-blooded because they can change their body temperature as per change to the environment. So, their blood is not so pure. Sometimes they have mixed blood. Even though they survive, they do their activities as they can change their body temperature as per environment. So, fishes has 2-chambered heart, amphibians has 3-chambered heart, reptiles to have 3-chambered heart except crocodile. Whereas the birds and mammals are more advanced. They are called warm-blooded because they maintain constant body temperature. They cannot change their body temperature as per requirement. They has to maintain constant body temperature, and because of that, the birds undergo migration as per seasons. But mammals, they wear sweaters during winters, and during summer they wear the cotton clothes. As per the season, they change their clothing, food habits, etc. Because the human beings cannot go for migration, right? They cannot change their houses. Because birds, they can build a nest anywhere at any time. But humans cannot change their buildings, so they change their food habits and clothing as per the seasons and the requirement, because they are warm-blooded animals and they cannot change their body temperature. Hence, they have four-chambered heart. Pure blood is circulated and impure blood is purified in the heart and the lungs. And next is about plant kingdom. Plant kingdom, where the plants are divided as thallophyte in the sense algae, bryophyte, even there is no xylem phloem in the bryophyte, pteridophyta, here the xylem phloem starts developing, hence pteridophytes are called the first land animals. As you see the first diagram, the fern, the beautiful fern comes under pteridophytes. And next, gymnosperms. Gymnosperms, they grow the seed, but the seed is naked. It is not enclosed by the fruit. And here the reproductive structures are cones. You just observe second picture. Those are the cones present in the gymnosperms. And angiosperms. Angiosperms are the organisms. They are fruit producing, flower producing plants. We are having the food because of maximum we obtain from angiosperms, the fruit bearing plants, the flower bearing plants. You just see the third picture and fourth picture, the flower and the fruit. These are the angiosperms. Angiosperms are two types, monocots and dicots. Monocots, single cotyledon, dicots, two cotyledons. Monocots have, yes, fibrous root. Dicot have taproot. Monocots shows parallel venation. Dicot shows reticulate venation. Monocots have only one cotyledon. Dicots have two cotyledons. Like this, we can differentiate based on the root, leaf, and the fruit. And as you seeing the fifth picture, these are the bryophytes. Bryophytes, they don't have vascular structure, but still we can differentiate as leaf and rhizome. Leaf and rhizoid. Leafy structure and rhizoid for to absorb the water. Instead of root, they have rhizoids. And the first one, even that is also bryophyta. And you just look, other than elongated structure, down there will be algae, greenish thallus algae. This about the plant kingdom. We can differentiate the plants into 5 groups. The algae, thallophyta, bryophyta, non-vascular plant. Bryophyta are called as amphibians of the plant kingdom. Why it is called so? They need both water and the land for their survival. Hence they are called amphibians of the plant kingdom. Pteridophyta, the first image ferns, they are the pteridophytes. They are the first land animals, land plants. And the next one is gymnosperms and angiosperms. Gymnosperms are naked seed plants. Angiosperms are fruiting plants, flowering plants. The next is mycota. I am coming quite reverse. First we studied about animals and next plants, and next is non-green plants. What are non-green plants? They are mycota or fungi. These are the mushrooms. These are saprophytes. They develop on dead and decay matter. The mode of nutrition is saprophytic mode of nutrition. And these plants absorb the nutrients from the outside as the dead and decay process. After degradation, the nutrients are directly absorbed by the mushrooms. And these are very healthy food for the humans. And next is Protista, single-celled organisms. Single-celled, both plants and animals comes under Protista. These are eukaryotes. Some of the examples comes under Protista are slime mold. Mold is fungus. Amoeba, euglena, dinoflagellata comes under algae. Paramecium, diatom, macroalga. All these are the some of the example for Protista as they have only one cell. One cell perform all the activities. As I quoted with the example amoeba. Amoeba forms a food vacuole and that will be digested by the amylase and they leave the waste material just like that and they'll move off. And how the mode of nutrition takes place here? Just by simple diffusion. And how the exchange of gases takes place? Like absorption of oxygen and leaving out carbon dioxide. Again, it is also by diffusion. That is the movement of molecules from the region of higher concentration towards the lower concentration. And how the oxygen enters inside the cell? When the amount of dissolved oxygen in the water is high and if it is reduced in the cell, the oxygen starts moving inside the cell by diffusion. During that time, the cell may have more carbon dioxide and that starts moving outside from cell to the external environment. The oxygen intake takes place and carbon dioxide outlet takes place simultaneously by simple diffusion process. Same thing happens in all the cells. And the first kingdom, that is Monera. These are entirely different. As I told, these are prokaryotes. What are prokaryotes? They don't have definite nucleus. They have incipient nucleus where the genetic materials is naked. It is not enclosed by nuclear membrane. And in Monera, the cells may be pathogenic, heterotrophic, and even they may be autotrophic. Autotrophic in the sense they can prepare their own food. Which were the organisms? Some photosynthetic bacteria and cyanobacteria. Some photosynthetic bacteria and cyanobacteria can prepare their own food, hence they are autotrophic in nature. Other than that, all other bacteria are sometimes they create diseases, hence they are pathogenic. Heterotrophic, they depend on other organisms for the food. These are prokaryotes. They don't have membrane bounded cell organelles. They don't have nuclear membrane. The DNA is just like plasmids they found in a circular structures in the cytoplasm. Okay, this I left. One more type of tissue is animal tissue. We already discussed about plant tissue in the same way. Animal tissue. Animal tissue is like adipose tissue, areolar tissue, dense connective tissue like bone tissue and cartilage, fluid connective tissue like blood, epithelial tissue which act as skin and also the lining of internal organs, muscular tissue which forms the muscles which bound to the skeletal tissue. And connective tissue is areolar connective tissue. And the final one is nervous tissue which forms nervous system. And this nervous system is mainly made up of a single cell called neuron. This is the neuron. The neuron has a small branches called dendrites and distinct nucleus, cell body, and very elongated branch called axon. Axon is covered by myelin sheath and this axon ends with nerve endings or terminal buttons. This neuron helps in exchange of information, and always the information carries in electrical and chemical impulses. When the dendrite receives the information, as soon it enters inside the dendrite and cell body, it converts into electrical impulse. And when it passes through the axon, it is in electrical impulse form. But when it comes at the end and it is about to jump into another neuron, it has to cross synapse. During that synapse region, it converts into chemical impulse. And then as soon it jumps into another dendrite of another neuron, again, yes, it converts into electrical impulse. Like this, the information from the sense organs, it reaches to the brain, and from the brain again it reaches to the muscles with the help of neurons by electrical impulse and chemical impulse. And I told in the plants obviously they prepare their own food. And how do they get carbon dioxide and release of oxygen takes place? It takes place by the help of pores called stomatal pores. And you see the structure of stomata. They have guard cells and surrounded by subsidiary cells. The guard cells helps in closing and opening of the stomata. This is the enlarged structure of stomata, where stomata has two guard cells and one stomatal pore, and these guard cells is rich with chloroplast cells, cell organelles, and surrounded by subsidiary cells. The guard cells opening and closing takes place with the amount of water content in the guard cells. If the water content is more, the guard cell swells and the stomatal pore opens. This happens during daytime. When the guard cells loses the water, the guard cells shrink and stomatal pore get closed. Like this, the amount of water helps in opening and closing of the stomata. Okay, till now in this session we discussed more about plant cell, animal cell, plant tissues, animal tissues, classification of plants and classification of the animals. Stomatal pore helps in exchange of gases and helps in transpiration. Where do stomata pores are more? In the lower epidermis, in the lower surface of the leaf rather than upper surface. So neuron helps in transferring the information from the sense organs to the brain and from brain to the muscles. Animal tissues are different types and different functions will be performed by different kinds of animal tissue. Adipose tissue helps in storing the fat. Nervous tissue helps in sending the information to the brain and getting back. Bone tissue, cartilage tissue gives the support to the human body. Connecting tissue, adipose tissue, areolar tissue, reticulate tissue, all this helps in conducting the food materials and oxygen and storing the fat and supplying the nutrients and oxygen to the skin, etc. Muscular tissue, again, two types. Yes, muscular tissue is skeletal muscular tissue and smooth muscular tissue. Skeletal muscular tissue are voluntary in action as they are bonded to the skeletal system. Smooth muscular tissue, they are smooth as they are non-voluntary in action. They are not under the will of the human being, like cardiac muscular tissue. Again, it is also involuntary. They are not under the will of the human being. They perform their activity continuously, like peristaltic movement of esophagus and the cardiac muscles. Cardiac muscles, continuous rhythmic contraction and relaxation. All these are involuntary in action. Epithelial tissue, which covers the internal and external body. And the next one is the blood. The blood is fluid connective tissue which transports the food and the oxygen to the cell and carry back the carbon dioxide and the waste. The blood is very important as they carry the oxygen with the help of hemoglobin, which is a red pigment. And this about the animal tissues. And all the organisms are divided into 5 kingdoms. The first kingdom is Kingdom Monera, which comprise Prokaryotes, and Protista comprise all unicellular organisms. The third kingdom is Mycota, non-green colored organisms like mushrooms. Kingdom Plantae. Kingdom Plantae is again differentiated as subgroups like Thallophyta, algae, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, Gymnosperm, and finally Angiosperms. All animals divided into unicellular animals comes under Protista, and other than that, advanced organisms are differentiated as invertebrates without backbone, vertebrates with backbone. Vertebrates, we human being comes under category mammals, the advanced organism among the animal kingdom. And the plants have very specific plant tissues like meristematic tissue, permanent tissue. Permanent tissue is again divided into simple permanent tissue, complex permanent tissue, and very important tissues are complex permanent tissue, that is xylem and phloem. Xylem conducts water, phloem conducts food. And all the living organisms are mainly made up of the cell. The plants are made up of plant cell, animal cells are made up of animal cell, but this can be different in different locations. Basically, all plant cells, animal cells have same basic components. Hi Grishma, Deepa, Bhargavi. Okay, someone arised 3-chambered heart. Okay, this about today's session. Ask. Fully satisfied? So much of feedback? No? Anything to be clarified? As their exception compared to the reptiles? Yeah, Muskan, you have doubt. Why not in crocodile? Crocodile is exception. Only crocodile, maybe due to the evolution features, that was an animal which is very much closer. Yeah. Before winding up this session, if you have any clarification to be done here. You can have a chat now. Okay, if there is to be clarified, shall we wind up this session? Okay, Muskan, shall we wind up this session? Oh, tonight we'll wind up this session. Okay, Priyanka, Kirti. So, thanks for visiting and watching this session. Okay, thank you all. Okay.